Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Taglavia. You're listening to Right Side Up. We're flying alone again today. My co-hosts are busy doing summertime family events and things. So we are going to keep plowing on through, bring you up to date to some of the goings on, mostly locally, but a little bit nationally. First, I want to kind of recap. You're hearing me, what is it? It's the first time. This will be Tuesday morning after, for me, I don't know how your weekend went, but it was a really great Independence weekend. Started off on Friday with East Corinth Parade, East Corinth, Vermont. It started on the main road in the village of East Corinth, went to the fairgrounds in East Corinth. There was great attendance. Along the side of the road, all the parade goers looking at all the floats and older vehicles and fire engines in the parade. And then there was a great gathering at the fairgrounds, great chicken barbecue with a bunch of sides. There was a silent auction. It was a really large group of people. Weather was, you couldn't have asked for better weather. So that's how my weekend started. And then in the evening, went to a friend's place for a great dinner and an awesome fireworks show. So my day, Friday, Independence Day, was one of the best days so far I've had this year. It was really, really an awesome day. And then Saturday, I don't know if you and ladies and gentlemen in the audience had numerous activities to go to, but I went to an event down in Vershire for Vershire Day. I was there for a little while, spoke with some of the fire department members there and some of the residents there, and that was really good too. And we had great weather for that as well. Saturday, I didn't have too much to do. I did go Saturday night again to another barbecue and another great fireworks display. So it was all around. It was a really great weekend. Hopefully you had as good a weekend as I did. But we're back at it today, trying to make heads or tails of what's going on in both locally and nationally. But the first thing I wanted to bring to your attention, and I was looking at this is from Rob Roper, dated July 1. And the title is, "This month the state will start deducting 5% of some workers' wages unless they actively opt out of VT Saves." Now, Rob Roper he's got his own Substack. It's called Behind the Lines, BTL. He also is published widely on Vermont Daily Chronicle, and he's also published on our friends at Granite Grok. So you can find this article all over the place. But I wanted to recap because this highlights one of the things that is a problem for not only state legislatures, but the legislature at the national level. We are addicted to your money. That's basically what it is. And that breaking that addiction is going to take quite some time. We've gone over some of the tax breaks that were signed into law by the governor of Vermont. I think I did it a couple of times. S51, we talked about it. There were 3 or 4 different subjects with S51. It had to do with military retirement, it had to do with Social Security, and it also had to do with earned income tax credits and child tax credits. So we did do a little bit. Like I said, we need to slowly wean off of your tax dollars. It's an addiction. And this article and this act is proof of it. So let me get into the meat of it here. In 2023, the Vermont legislature passed a law spearheaded by Vermont State Treasurer Mike Pieciak, Democrat from Vermont, Act 43, an act relating to the establishment of Vermont Saves, VT Saves. What it does is mandate employers with more than 5 employees and not otherwise offering a retirement savings plan to register and enroll their employees in this state-run savings account scheme. 5% of the employees' salaries will be automatically deducted and invested in Vermont Saves without the employee's initial consent. That's the kicker. That's the thing that I really wanted to, and Rob Roper really wanted to put emphasis on. As the Treasurer's Office states, the program requires, emphasis added, that covered employees with employers with 5 or more employees automatically enroll their employees into VT Saves. No requirement to ask or even inform the employee that this transaction is taking place. The first phase of mandatory enrollment for employers with 25 or more employees begins July 1, 2025. So as I'm recording this today, ladies and gentlemen, we're 7 days in. So today, according to the article and how he wrote it, phase 2 for employers will be with 15 to 24 employees, and that kicks in January 1 of 2026. And for 5 to 15 employees, a year from now, on July 1, 2026, that kicks in. Employees can opt out of the program, but have to actively do so after being forcibly enrolled. The law states, unless otherwise specified by the covered employee, a covered employee shall automatically initially contribute 5% of the covered employee's salary or wages to the program. A covered employee may elect to opt out of the program at any time or contribute at any higher or lower rate. In the absence of an affirmative election by the participant, 5% of the participant's taxable wages as is required. So if this program sounds like it affects your place of work, meaning the Treasurer's Office estimates around 88,000 Vermonters will be impacted, and you don't want to see 5% of your salary automatically dumped into a state-run retirement account, you need to talk to your employer. Go to, and there's a website, there's a link on the website you can click on and find the employee opt-out in the menu bar at the top of the screen. So let me read this back to you. If this sounds like it affects you or at your workplace, you need to go either find this article on Behind the Lines, Granite Rock, Vermont Daily Chronicle, or find the website on the government website at the Treasurer's Office probably. Click the link to opt out. It's worth noting that government employees who would otherwise qualify are exempt from the mandate to enroll. So do you really want to trust your retirement savings to chefs who don't eat their own cooking? Just saying. But if Vermont Saves is a good option for your financial situation, by all means do it. Saving for retirement is a wise thing to do, and if this is a helpful tool, great. That's not the issue. The problem here is automatically enrolling people in a program that removes a sizable chunk of their take-home pay, potentially by unpleasant surprise. VT Saves is going to affect primarily lower-income earners making $50,000 a year or less. 5% of $50,000 is $2,500, or over $100 per 2-week paycheck. Rent being what it is, egg prices being what they are, et cetera, and so on. Some folks may not be able to afford having that deducted automatically from their salary. And imagine when they find out there's a deduction, and they don't know what it is, some people are going to be upset, right? It's great to save for the future, but there is no future if you can't afford today. And it's not right or fair for government to make people jump through hoops in order to control what's happening to their own money that they earned. And I agree with the author here. The program, if necessary at all, and there's nothing stopping someone from setting up an IRA, should have been set up as an opt-in option for employees, not an opt-out. Sounds like something that we in the legislature are going to need to be fixing. The latter is infantilizing nanny statism. Pickpocket paycheck shouldn't be able to snatch a working Vermonter's money and, like a bully on the playground, dangle it high in the air while making us dance to get it back. After all, what are we celebrating this July 4th weekend? So, if, like I said, you want to find more about this article, Rob Roper, Behind the Lines on Substack or on Vermont Daily Chronicle or on, or on Granite Grok, our friends at Granite Grok. It's all over. So you'll be able to find it. Go back, find the link to, if this affects you, to figure out how you can opt out. Maybe you let your employer know that if this is going on, that you definitely don't want to be part of it. You'll find and invest in a way that you'd rather do it. And Rob makes a very good point. Independence Day weekend is just about that. I saw a great meme. I don't know if you saw it, and I'm probably going to mess it up because I don't have it in front of me. But it's a meme of, I think, from the cartoon, the animated show, The Hill. It's kind of, what's crazy is paying taxes on fireworks to celebrate a holiday that was fought over paying taxes. So I just thought that was pretty funny. It makes a lot of sense. Some of you are probably in a very high tax bracket. You're probably at your wit's end with taxes and such. So I wanted to bring that article up. Something needs to be fixed with respect to the Vermont Saves. It is Act 43. So you may want to look into that and see if you are a Vermont listener, employed by a Vermont employer. You may want to check that out because you may find out in 2 weeks that your paycheck is just a little bit lighter than you thought it was going to be. I want to start in with the next, something that we're going to cover a lot more in the next segment, but it's going to be pretty long, so I want to start in it with this. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've heard of a periodical called Imprimis. It is a publication of Hillsdale College. Hillsdale College, and mind you, this is not a paid promotion. This is a publication that I get. I have it delivered to me in the mail. You can get it delivered to your email inbox, but I highly recommend it. But there's an article I'm going to read, or this publication, this July-August one. The title is American Virtues 2025. It's a 2025 commencement address by Victor David Hanson. So if you are a Republican, if you consider yourself a conservative, whether it be fiscal conservative or constitutional conservative, you probably know the name Victor David Hanson. He is a very intelligent man. He's an excellent writer. I remember reading in his Imprimis an article about the evolution of healthcare, and it was really, really good. But this article is basically, I don't believe it's his whole commencement address, but it talks about American virtues and our American university system. So I wanted to give you kind of a primer on where we're going with our next segment, because it makes a lot of sense. It talks about basically how we need to navigate back toward first principles. We need to navigate back toward what we've done in the past with respect to getting back to basics in education, if we are going to have not only our K through 12 students thrive and prosper in their future, but also college and university age students. So believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, we've managed to get to the end of a first segment already. We will come back in a couple of minutes. We've got to pay some bills, and then we'll get into this Imprimis article that I was telling you about. You're listening to Right Side Up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. I'd like to get right back into what we were talking about when we ended the last segment. Reading from Imprimis. This is a publication of Hillsdale College. I highly recommend you go to the Hillsdale College website and sign up to get this. The articles that come, generally they come once a month. They're really great to read. They're really insightful. They cause you to think of a lot, which I find is very helpful for me. I like to hang out and read stuff with smarter people so I can learn maybe even a little bit faster. Anyway, I want to get into this because it's a fairly long article. I don't know if I'll be able to cover all of it, but there's a lot that I would really love to cover, so let me get right into it here. And this is Victor David Hanson speaking. So let me hang up this phone. Somebody's trying to get a hold of me, and I'll get back into it here. Before we begin, let me offer a brief contemporary observation. Has anyone noticed how the eyes of the nation have now turned to Hillsdale? This recent interest surpasses even the past considerable attention that Hillsdale has garnered. One reason for this, of course, is that Harvard University suddenly wishes to be free of Washington, D.C., at least as long as the current administration remains in office. And yet, in its confusion, Harvard still wishes to maintain over $9 billion in federal subsidies. Now, subsidies, ladies and gentlemen, you know I keep reminding everyone when we hear subsidies, it's other people's money. So, and most of you know Harvard is sitting on quite a massive endowment, so it really does not need our money to subsist and to keep operating. All right, back to the article. In answer, the public has been directing Harvard to consult Hillsdale, whose model disavowal of federal funding is longstanding and principled. Hillsdale's declination of government money does not hinge on any particular administration, Republican or Democrat, being in power. Instead, Hillsdale has taken the position that the federal government should not dictate to private colleges, and that to ensure its independence, Hillsdale will neither seek nor accept taxpayer subsidies. I think that's a great way to go, personally. Another reason for this attention being given Hillsdale is that the Department of Education, in seeking to restore civic and classical education, looks in Hillsdale's direction. If in the past Hillsdale was an atoll of common sense, a sanctuary of all that remains good in the largely lost and aimless landscape of American higher education, today it is more than the nation's guide to rediscovery of personal integrity, gratitude to the old breed that came before, and happiness and hope about the future. In other words, Hillsdale College has become the nation's 21st century example of what higher education should be and might still become. So today I would like to reflect on these three sometimes forgotten American virtues: honor, tradition, and optimism, which are embodied in the Hillsdale campus and will serve to guide today's graduates in the years ahead. For 21 consecutive autumns, Hillsdale has graciously hosted me as a visiting professor of history and classics. Looking back on my first time here in 2004, I was immediately struck by three observations that seemed unique in my decades-long associations with a number of other college campuses. First, on my first full day here, I realized that I had left my bicycle unlocked on campus overnight. I walked to campus that morning expecting my bike to be either vandalized or stolen, yet there it was in the center of a now crowded campus, just as I had left it. Now I want to break from the article here, ladies and gentlemen, for just a minute, because this point that Victor David Hanson made in his speech, his commencement address, it definitely, without fail, makes a point about this beautiful Green Mountain state that we live in. It's one of the reasons why I chose this beautiful Green Mountain state of Vermont to make my home. What Victor David Hanson said with regard to his bicycle that was left on a busy campus overnight and how he found it just as he left it is what most of rural Vermont knows, that just in the recent past, anywhere in Vermont, this would be the case, where a bicycle left unlocked on campus overnight, a bicycle left unlocked on a street somewhere, would still be there the next day. And you and I, ladies and gentlemen, know that because of the situation, because of the public safety situation, in part due to the legislature and in part due to some city governments and their lack of willingness to enforce statutes and laws already on the books, we have the problem we have now. But it doesn't exist on this college campus. So I just wanted to break from that to make that observation. And I know that will hit home with many of the listeners out there. So that's why I wanted to break from it and talk about that for a minute. And back to the article. That was something I couldn't imagine happening on a modern college campus. I had certainly never seen anything like it in California, where I had been teaching for over 2 decades. Second, that same day, when I visited the bookstore to check on the book orders for my 2 classes, I scanned the shelves and was equally stunned. I did not see a single course listing with the usual fetish studies suffix. There were no therapeutic course titles like peace studies, environmental studies, leisure studies, film studies, ethnic studies, gender studies, or sexual studies. Instead, there were courses listed in all classical aspects of philosophy, literature, language, history, mathematics, and science. Here at Hillsdale, I found only the disciplines that have endured for centuries and that ironically have encompassed and grounded the content of the studies classes not found on the Hillsdale campus. What a strange thing, I thought, given the current landscape of higher education, for this contemporary American college to trust in the brilliance of some 2,500 years of prior Western educators who in Athens, Rome, and Jerusalem founded the disciplines and boundaries of their all-encompassing knowledge. And how much odder that at Hillsdale, almost uniquely, these classes remain constant and unchanged from their inception, even as academia as a whole believes that modernistic courses and novel therapies are needed to explain a supposedly new and ever-changing human nature. And my third observation upon first arriving here was that students, faculty, and staff at Hillsdale College are happy. They smile. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to break from the article again. Students being happy and students smiling, do you think that would help their learning experience just a little bit? I know recently in the legislature we did finally pass the cell phone free schools bill. And my real genuine hope is that because our students will not be as distracted by their electronic devices, that they will interact with each other more. They will learn to socialize as we older folks. I'm 61, just for you, those of you who don't know. We in school, we should be learning how to talk to our peers, learning how to interact with our peers. And I mean not via an electronic device, especially if they're only 6 feet away from us. So my hope is that newly passed bill, and it's apparently that is making the rounds countrywide. It is becoming more of a thing. I hope that will help our kids in schools of all ages and grades be happy and smile a little bit more. Back to the article here. They say hello to strangers. They shake your hand. A shared confidence is entirely natural here. It is innate to the point that when I, the stranger, initially remarked on the rare upbeat mood of the campus, people were here thought I was the strange one for expecting anything else. Now, I'm going to break from the article again here because I had this same feeling, being the strange one, expecting something else. Growing up in New York, moving to Maryland, and then coming here to find out how incredibly friendly and incredibly helpful and incredibly honest most of the Vermonters I came across were. It was such a breath of fresh air. This is really a wonderfully unique state. And this is why I broadcast to you, ladies and gentlemen, because I believe the heritage and the history and the way of life in this state is worth saving. It's worth working for. So I just wanted to say that. Getting back to the article. We might shrug over how trivial this observation seems, but in fact, it is a glimpse into the fundamental Hillsdale notion of confidence in our civilization and the need for fellowship and positivity to preserve it. Such happiness is quite different from what one finds on most other campuses, where the youthful frown is now the normal expression. People pass each other by with a cold absence of greeting, as if proof of pseudo-sophistication. They often express a dourness of contrived seriousness and maturity. Students elsewhere seem to think that they alone, unlike electricians, farmers, and assembly line workers, bear the weight of global grievances and imperfections, past, present, and future, but not at Hillsdale. Behind these three seemingly mundane observations of a bicycle left alone overnight, a bookstore unaffected by academic fads, and a buoyancy within the Hillsdale community, remain larger truths. Okay, so honor. You students of the class of 2025 have been instructed in, have absorbed fully, and will pass on a code of honorable conduct that has become a natural part of who you are. And it will remain with you on the long road ahead. Hillsdale has taught you not to worry if you are not one with the current majority of youth, because you are certainly one with most of the past and future generations. Your confidence in your code of ethical comportment and personal standards will be your legacy to help guide future cohorts to come. Because your values are real, permanent, and ancient, you will not be won over by those who justify their lapses of behavior by situational ethics or feelings of victimization. Without such individual vows of honesty and compassion for others, civilization in aggregate cannot be sustained. It instead descends into the age-old banes of tribalism, disunity, and chaos. Students at Hillsdale do not steal bicycles because their personal code of honor forbids it. Now, I'm going to break from the article once again, ladies and gentlemen. Remember reading not too long ago, I know I read it, I believe it was on Vermont Daily Chronicle, but there was a UVM professor, I believe it was a UVM professor, I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, who quote unquote stated, everybody does it, meaning everyone shoplifts. No, we do not, Mr. Professor. Most of us do not. Most of us have honor and integrity, and we respect others and the property of others. So I just wanted to break from that for a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to break from the article for a minute. I'll mark my place. We are going to need to break for another commercial break to pay some bills, but I will definitely get back into this because this address inspired me, and I wanted to read it to you because I think it's inspiring, and it will inspire most of you in the audience. You're listening to Right Side Up. We'll return in a couple minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. We were reading an article. It's the commencement speech from Victor David Hanson from this past May 2025. And I think I'm just going to call this show Inspiration from Victor David Hanson. I enjoy reading his articles. I'm sure most of you in my audience know who Victor David Hanson is. And when you read one of his articles, I don't know how you think, but I think to myself, boy, I wish I could write like this man writes. But before we get back into the commencement speech that he gave, I want to remind our listeners, if for some reason you cannot catch us on WNTK Radio, you can go to WNTK.com. You can click on the podcast button. You can scroll down to right side up and find any number of our shows in podcast form. You can find us on Podbean. You can find us on granitegrok.com. You can find us on 802 Scoop Facebook, and you can also find us on 802 Scoop YouTube. I just wanted to, and by the way, almost forgot, you can drop us a line at rightsideUpradio at gmail.com. So just needed to get that little bit of business out of the way. But I wanted to jump back into the commencement speech that Victor David Hanson gave to Hillsdale College students, because it left me with a very good feeling when I was done reading it. I just figured, I don't know how many of you in the audience get this publication, but or are able to find Victor David Hanson on the web. So I thought this was very fitting, especially after a terrific Independence Day weekend. So back to the article. Students at Hillsdale do not steal bicycles because their personal code of honor forbids it, because they are not concerned that the poor victim would suffer without this property, and because they know that if this was common practice, then their own culture and civilization would crumble, as indeed it has in many places in America today. And I'm going to break from the article. That's why I brought up the UVM professor who professed in apparently a very foul F-bomb laced rant somewhere, I don't remember exactly where, that everybody does it. And I'm glad that Victor David Hanson points out that most people don't, that graduates of Hillsdale College, because they have honor, do not. And I imagine most of you, ladies and gentlemen, in my listening audience here would not dream of doing that. So, back to the article here. Much of our society's current crises derives from this personal refusal or inability to respect the property of others, to tell the truth, to stand up to the bully, to protect the weaker, and to end each day in contemplation that you were more a moral force for the common good than either a neutral observer or on the wrong side of the ethical ledger. When individual behavior and decorum falter, so does a country, which is, after all, only the common reflection of millions of its individuals. Tradition. The character of the Hillsdale student is nurtured and sustained by tradition, a word derived from the Latin noun traditio, meaning a transmission or handing down. So often in the age of presentism, we in our narcissism and arrogance confuse our technical and material successes with automatic moral progress. We seem unaware that thinkers of the past, as early as Greek poet Hesiod, I hope I pronounced that correctly, some 2,700 years ago, worried about just the opposite. They worried that material progress and greater wealth would result in moral regress, given the greater opportunities to gratify the appetites with perceived fewer consequences and to use sophistry to excuse the sin. Likewise, without traditional reverence for the past and ungrateful nation not only suffers a loss of knowledge, but is plagued by hubris, so often the twin of ignorance, believing that it alone has discovered ideas and behaviors unique to itself and its own era, when they are in fact ancient. This closed-minded mindset seeks a kind of perfection, a heaven on earth instead of the good, and it ends up obtaining neither. We are not instead the sum total of all those who came before us, who for the most part here in America left us a constitutional system and infrastructure that allowed us to start our lives both materially and civically in terms of freedom far ahead of those in the past and those elsewhere today. Key to the endangered idea of reverence for the past is a recognition that it is neither fair nor just to dismiss easily those of either generations based solely on the standards of the present. Instead, we must remember the different circumstances faced by previous generations. Circumstances like incurable illnesses, short life expectancy, and work entailing existential danger and physical drudgery. Yet our ancestors were able to endure suffering and challenges that we now can scarcely imagine. The Hillsdale reverence for the Western tradition and the American past is a reminder that we should not easily condemn and erase the dead, lest we and our times be judged capriciously by future generations and found wanting, whether for the medievalism of our dangerous cities, the electronic cruelty of the internet, or the fragmentation of the family. Optimism. I wish to end on a happy note in the manner I first encountered the Hillsdale community. Your generation is now witness to a counter-revolution of sorts. Millions of Americans are asking for a re-examination of our culture and society with an eye to restoring ancient decency and looking to the good of past generations. Oh, let's see. I've lost my place. I've lost my place. Okay, here we go. Critical to this restoration is your optimism. Such positivity is the child of gratitude for all that we have inherited and all that we wish to enhance and pass on to others not yet born. With optimism and confidence in the citizenry, a civilization grows rather than shrinks. It becomes secure, not depressed or beset by self-loathing. It looks to the future with reverence for the past rather than with shame or hatred. Now, I'm going to break again this. It looks to the future with reverence for the past rather than with shame or hatred. How many people in this country and in this state are constantly bringing up the shortcomings of this country and the mistakes, the stumbling that we have done in this country? Nobody's perfect. No country is perfect. But there are those in our society who would divide us based on things in our past that have happened and not acknowledge at all the idea that we have done our best with statutes, with laws, with policies to rectify the mistakes, to correct the mistakes that we made, because we have. Of course, it is now chic to be moody and pessimistic and uncool, to be upbeat and cheerful. But the strength of this country, even in its darkest days like those of April 12, 1861, or December 7, 1941, or September 11, 2001, has always been its singular ability to remain not just unshaken, but confident in its values, in its resilience, and its inherent strength to overcome all challenges. In its current counter-revolution of sorts, it is neither the duty nor the desire of Hillsdale to become a political player. Nonetheless, the nation looks for guidance and the reassurance of the old wisdom. Therefore, it is only natural, as I have said, that Hillsdale College and its moral and intellectual architecture have become preeminent to a degree scarcely imaginable in the past. So you, the class of 2025, as Hillsdale graduates, be asked by your peers to provide guidance as never before. And I am confident that by your education, your code of comportment, your reverence, and your optimism, you will become natural leaders and exemplars in whatever paths you follow. In the era to come, that will be America's greatest renaissance, and also, I think, its most decent. Thank you, and may God bless you all. Now, like I said, Victor David Hanson is an excellent writer. He is an incredible thinker. This was, to me, very uplifting. It was very optimistic. It shows a confidence in our youth that they will, if they don't see today, they will see what is actually going on in this country, in this world, and they will take steps to fix it. Those who have not learned all of history, those who have not learned the true history, not only of this country, but of the world, those who don't know the pitfalls of Marxism and socialism and fascism and communism, will eventually find out. We have this thing called the internet. We have people who are older than our young people, than the graduates that Victor David Hanson spoke to, who can impart that knowledge to them or direct them to where to go to find it. And when some of these young people are fearful for the future of the country and the world, it's up to us who have, those of us who are a little bit older with a little bit more life experience, to be able to explain to them that not everything they've been told is the truth and where they can go to find the truth. This is one of the reasons why I have spoken to you numerous times, ladies and gentlemen, about how many of the people who are the purveyors of the climate scam, global warming, if we don't act now, in 9 years or 11 years or 12 years or whatever number of years, the environment will be damaged beyond repair, or our environment would be doomed and we will not be able to reverse it. I constantly ask when I have the chance, number one, of these people who are purveying this falsehood to our young people, how many of the people who tell you we only have 9, 11, or 12 years or 20 years, how many of them, if you're in 10th grade, in 20 years, are going to be issuing a letter of apology to the whole planet, let alone the people who are young people who are school age, who they scared the living hell out of? None of them will, because they're looking to make a profit off of fear-mongering. So they won't. So I am optimistic, ladies and gentlemen, for the future not only of the state but of the country. We do have some problems that need to be rectified. We still have, in this state, we have a public safety issue to deal with. We have a school funding and a school structure issue to deal with. We have infrastructure to deal with. We are in July, first week of July. In the past 2 years, we have had flooding issues that have put a lot of people out of their homes and have hurt them financially very badly. But we will find ways to fix it. We will find ways to fix it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed our show today. We've come to the end of another show. Please remember, Be safe. Stay informed. Listen to Right Side Up.